Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining me to talk a little bit about implementing a third-party risk management program using BitSight. Quickly, a little bit about myself. My name is Mike Caruso. I have worked in the technology space for more than 30 years. I'm a former CISO and have led infrastructure, networking, and development teams. I've been working with Access Point over the last 2.5 years, helping to protect enterprise data across multiple cloud environments. We're just going to go over the agenda briefly. And so a little bit introduction about what Access Point does, why a TPRM program is needed, what does an effective TPRM program look like, how to get started building a program from scratch, a little bit about what it looks like when using BitSight's vendor risk management and total risk monitoring solution. We'll discuss reporting and then sum everything up at the end. All right, quickly, a little bit about Access Point. We provide a boutique service for advisory services, compliance, and security operations, which includes threat intelligence, incident management, vulnerability management, and SOC services. We will assess your situation, design a service specific to meet your needs, and then we can implement and manage the solution for you. So Access Point has a excellent staff. Our team consists of experts who hold advanced degrees and certifications in cybersecurity and related fields, such as CISO, CISSP, CISM, and CRISC. With extensive experience across various industries, our professionals bring a wealth of knowledge and a proven track record of protecting businesses from cyber threats. So, why is a TPRM program needed? Every organization, no matter what size or industry, engages with third parties. But working with third parties might introduce additional cyber risk for your organization. If the third party has access to your network and data, this expands your attack surface, so increased risk for you. As a consequence, there's no longer a digital perimeter that you can secure. And based on your third party's access rights or the type of data they handle, you must consider their cybersecurity posture as well as your own. Because cyber threats are the most significant form of third-party risk, potentially leading to data breaches that can impact a company's finances, operations, reputation, and compliance. Many companies still fall prey to third-party risk, and I will discuss on the next slide why this is important. And you want to continuously monitor the security postures of your third parties to help reduce your overall risk level. We're going to discuss some high-level breaches that came about because of third parties. So this slide coming up here, it's a lot to look at, but I'm just going to highlight a couple really. And they're interesting because they're totally different, and you'll see why. So the MGM attack, I'm sure everyone's heard of. So this happened in September of 2023, MGM Resorts. So this one's interesting to me because it actually began with a voice phishing attack. So the group had actually researched senior MGM resort officials via LinkedIn, and they used this information to contact MGM's help desk, where they requested a phone number reset for a highly privileged MGM resort employee. And beyond that, what they did was they set up their own identity provider so that once the service desk, if they realized their mistake, it would be too late to undo it, and they would have access in the system. It resulted in MGM losing a lot of money. They ended up paying $22 million in cryptocurrency, as well as losing a ton of money. They're estimating over $100 million in adjusted property for their resorts. So the impact was quite severe. Uh, and want to talk briefly just about another one, which is also interesting. And this was the Change Healthcare um, breach. Now, this one was interesting because of the type of attack. They actually were able to get account information for an account for their Citrix server, which gave them high-level access to the information. Now, what's interesting about it is the reason they were able to get in through that account was there was no two-factor authentication set up on an admin account, which is a huge no-no. And so, that led to a significant loss for the United Health Group. They had to pay a ransomware amount and caused them significant amount of pain. Also, pharmacies like CVS, Walgreens, and all the consumers who were unable to fill their prescriptions at the time. So as you can see, the third parties securing, your network, whether it's your own or, understanding where the vulnerabilities are in your third-party network is quite crucial. So now that we understand the risks, we want to talk about what makes an effective program. So, I kind of break it down into a few items that pretty simple. One, really, you want to be able to identify all your third-party relationships. So, there's the ones that you're going to know about that IT has brought in, but there might be some actually that end users have brought in. So you need a way to identify each relationship in your organization. Once you do that, you want to make sure that you can identify who the security contacts are, because you want to be able to build a relationship with these companies, especially if they're a critical company to your business. So you want to be able to share information back and forth and have contacts. If you see anything interesting to them, or they might see something that's going on in your network, basically the goal is to collaborate to make each other's data more secure. You also want to be able to review the contract. So you want to be able to have, clauses in the contract that give you the right to audit, the right to request information, to do a security review. You also want to have a minimum standards in your contract specifying, things like encryption, encryption standards that you require, and notification standards. You want to understand the business relationship. So, really, if you understand what the third party is doing for you, you can understand what data they have access to, how they share that data with you, or how that data is processed. So that will help you in understanding, the risks that they bring to the table. And then you want to define periodic assessment. So, you're going to reassess this vendor annually, every 2 years, every 5 years. And you also want to have a program to continuously monitor their performance. So, not just by doing a static assessment and waiting a year, but to continuously look at a security score, something like that BitSight does provide for you. And we'll get into that in a little bit. So how do we want to get started with that? Some of these things I did mention earlier, but number one is definitely identify the third parties. Number two, you want to collect information on the business relationship, the system access, the type of data exchange, type of data handled, how the data flows between, the two companies, and also information like what's in the contract. But then what you want to do is you want to take that information and you want to you want to assign the vendor into a risk tier. So, you could use, 2, 3, 4 risk tiers. I like to use 4. Um, one being critical, and then maybe a high, medium, and then low is kind of like a no risk vendor. That way, the reason you want to break them into tier is because you'll have different requirements based on the risk level. And if you have them in different tiers, you can assign different criteria based on the tiers in terms of what you're looking at. So next, what you want to do is be able to perform a detailed assessment. So that may include looking at their certifications, looking at what type of insurance they have, looking at their policies, maybe answers to questionnaire like a SIG Lite, and also what their security rating score would be, and details of that score. And then also what you want to do is you want to add that vendor to continuous monitoring. So you not only have the static posture, but you want to be able to see changes over time to their security posture. Are they getting better, worse? Was there a breach? A public disclosure? Is there information on the dark web? And a product like BitSight can give you all that information. So, again, I mentioned it a number of times, but with BitSight, you can address all of your third-party management needs with one tool. So you can assess the vendor, you can onboard them, you can continually monitor them, all in one place. And I'll show you a little bit about that next. So this screen really goes back to the setup. So we talked a little bit about the setup before, and this is just a quick overview, but we're going to talk about, assigning the requirements, setting up the scoring, and the life cycle. So going in here, so this shows how you can set up requirements or the type of requirements that might be available. What we would do is define, based on tier or department or possibly, type of product that's being assessed or type of vendor that's being assessed, the requirements that you want. And you can build that out and you customize that to your needs. So you can set up request for questionnaires. Like I mentioned, you could do the SIG Lite, the CAIQ Lite, any number of, there's probably hundreds of questionnaires out there available for you to pick. You can also ask for specific certifications or ask them to drop any of the certifications that they have in. So you might require a SOC 2, or you might actually say, okay, or you might have an ISO 27001. So you can set that up too. And then you can also require them to supply a copy of their cyber insurance. All right, the next thing we're going to look at is actually how you set up the scoring. So the scoring, basically what this does is it calculates the kind of the level of risk, right? And that's based on those factors that I mentioned that you would collect on knowing what the third party does for you. So this is an example here. It's totally configurable. You can set the categories. You can leave these. You can add more. You can remove them. And then you can set the weight assigned to each category. So like we have criticality of service. Is there a dollar value? How much would it cost to replace this vendor? How easy would it be to replace them? Are they performing a legal or regulatory job for you, which might make it harder to replace? What type of information are they handling? What volume? Anything like that. And you can weight all that. And that goes into calculating, based on the answers to these questions, that would calculate basically a risk factor for the vendor. All right, and then you can actually set up the life cycle. So, this way you can customize the tool to meet your workflow. So you may have an initiation phase where you're bringing a new vendor on board, then you're gathering information from them. When you get all the information, you may pop it into a review status. You might not be getting the information you want from the vendor and need to go back to someone, so you could escalate it. Or if you're going into the review cycle, you could set it to review, and then you have, you would have an approved status. Like I said, these are completely configurable to your needs. So that's just a little bit about setup. There's more, but that's all. Everything is totally configurable, so you can make the system work to your workflow. What I did want to show you on this slide is really how once you have vendors set up, there is a main page where you can see the status of your third-party, program, kind of at a glance. So you would have your company name, all right, and then the impact score. So this is what's calculated based on those scoring factors, right? Then you have a trust score and the risk score, and the trust and the risk score are actually calculated based on the answers provided during the assessment phase. And this all gets calculated out together. All right. And then you can assign tags. So here we're showing tier 1, so if you've tiered your vendors, you would put your tier tag there. And you can have any other type of tags in there. You'd use that for reporting. You can use that to control the requirements sent. That's kind of it about tags. But again, you create as many as you want, and they're totally configurable. This column shows you where you stand or where the third party stands in terms of completing the requirements that you've asked for. And this shows you where they are in the life cycle phase. And then, of course, you could just click on the hyperlink here and drill in. Now, one of the things we like to say is, we get that information from the vendor. They're supplying the certifications, they're answering questions in their questionnaires, but we also like to verify what's being said. So using the BitSight Total Risk Management solution, you're actually able to get a risk score on many different risk vectors, right? And here we're seeing a C here on network security. Now, what's interesting here is, so this is being overlaid against one of the frameworks that you would pick to use. So say you're using a SIG-Lite for a questionnaire. The answers would come back. Actually, all of their answers would come back, and then the mapped risk vectors that apply to that questionnaire to the questions would get overlaid. So you can see their answer, and you can see what the BitSight security scanning and scorecard is saying about that. So this gives you verification. Now, a little bit about the total risk monitoring solution through BitSight. And so this screen here is showing us details on the security rating. So for the company, you get a total score. This is a 660, but you also can see the details behind that. And these aren't all of the individual risk vectors that are tracked, just some to show you. So we can see here, they have a pretty good score, 660. It's kind of in the intermediate range, but they have a problem with patching their systems. They have a D grade. TLS configurations, they're getting hit with a D grade here and a little bit off on their web application headers. Now, if you're concerned about that, you can actually just drill in by hitting the hyperlink, and you can see specifically what assets, those grades belong to. So then you can actually collaborate with the third party. You can give them access actually through the collaboration piece, and then ask them to take a look at this. So they're actually seeing, your third party can see the same information you're seeing, gives them the data they need to actually remediate the issues that you're finding. And by doing that, you're really helping them make their network more secure and reducing the risk to your network. Now, not only does it do a rating, it actually looks at vulnerabilities. Now, this is external scanning and it's non-credentialed, but you will get some very good information here. They do show if the vulnerability is confirmed, likely, or possible. They break it out that way. So again, what if it's confirmed? I mean, you need to make sure that they're addressing that. But you may have a lot of likelies that you might want to reach out to your vendor if they're critical and ask them, are you patched? What level are you running? Are these really, are these true vulnerabilities or not? There is also a fourth party module, which I'm showing here. So this is looking at how many service providers that your third party uses, how many different products, what the median rating score is across all of those service providers. And you can actually drill into each of these. What's interesting with the products, the combination of the products and the vulnerabilities actually gives you a lot of good information because, say there's a 0 day out there and it's a product, pick a product, and you can actually see not just, if you're using it or your third parties are using it, but if any of their third parties are using it. So, that information, especially on a 0 day, is very helpful. So then, again, with the collaboration module, you can reach out and not only let your third parties know that they have a vulnerability that needs to be patched, but their third parties also have that vulnerability so they can keep an eye on it. Again, all with the goal of collaboration and keeping your network safe. One other item that I want to point out, we talked about continuous monitoring a number of times, is through the total risk monitoring solution, you are able to set up alerts. This is just a sample of alert pages. Now you can actually define alerts. You can do them by percentage changes. You can have alerts on specific tiers. It's configurable for you. What I'm showing is a filtered version, and that's showing, a percentage change in the overall security score, and then also some threshold changes, and then we're also seeing some public disclosures. So what we do as a service is we monitor these for our third party clients, and when we see an alert come up, we'll do an investigation. Deep dive into specifically what caused the alert, perform a write-up, alert the client in terms of what's happening. And that way, they can make the decision whether they want to reach out to the third party or take any other action that may need to happen in order to help them improve their security rating. So that's all I had prepared in terms of showing what is in the system, but I did want to talk a little bit about reporting. With BitSight, BitSight supports APIs for all functions. So I didn't mention it in the beginning, but you can use APIs to onboard a client. So, in my case, I've created front ends where we're using a ticketing system to request a new third party. I've built a web app system that you can use, put the information in there, hit go, and it automatically enters into the system. Same thing for reporting. You can build custom reports so that you can meet your specific needs, tracking KPIs, anything like that. So, we can also help build reports for you to do that. There are reports built into both platforms, of vendor risk management and the total risk monitoring. But like I said, all the options are available for you. It's very flexible. And then really to sum it up, let's just review a couple of the key items that we hit upon. One, again, what we want to do is we want to make sure we identify all third parties. We want to know how they're used. We want to know what their data access requirements are, the type of data they use, and what the data flow is. We want to make sure we have security requirements in the contract. We want to make sure that we're assessing on a regular schedule based on the risk of the third party. that we continually monitor the third party, and that we use the collaboration piece so that we're building a stronger network together. And just want to take a moment to thank you for taking the time to learn a little bit about third-party risk management and BitSite and Access Point. And please reach out at the email below if you have any further questions. Thank you very much.